I'm going to talk about something that I haven't been talking about, and you guys have obviously seen it, and you know exactly what it is, and you're probably like, why isn't he saying anything about it? Well, I've been doing my research and trying to make sure that everything's good to go before I talk about it, and I think I'm at the point we need to discuss that thing right there. Yes, that's right. You guessed it. It's a flux capacitor we're putting on this thing. It's going to be stellar. I love it. No, that's a PTO. And why are we putting a PTO on a big bud tractor? Well, to be honest, a couple reasons. You can pull a grain cart. You could run a grain auger if you really needed to, if you're in a pinch. And I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, and please prove me wrong, but I don't think there's a big bud on this planet right now with a mechanical PTO on the back of the tractor. Yes, big buds have PTO options, but they run hydraulic to their grain carts. So you gotta have a hydraulic capacity. So let's discuss that thing. I'm gonna be talking a lot, but I want you guys to understand where I'm coming from in my mind. And if you see problems, please let me know, because this is, I don't think, ever been done. A mechanical PTO on a big bud tractor. Let's start on the transmission. First of all, when I was gonna do this PTO, I was planning on stacking a hydraulic pump on the side and trying to figure out how many gallons will I need to run a PTO on the back. So I was thinking in my mind, well, you're probably gonna need about 80 gallons, maybe 100 gallons at the very max to run a PTO for a grain cart. So I was like, okay, that's the route that I'm gonna try to go and do. And the PTO, well, not PTO, but the hydraulic pump was gonna be mounted on the side down there and stacked over and then run hydraulic lines the back. But what I didn't want is hydraulic couplers where you have to have a motor on your grain cart or whatever implement, and then you have to uncook those every single time. I wanted to be able to have a PTO spline on the back of the tractor that stays on the tractor all the time. So I originally was gonna do that gearbox and then have a hydraulic pump on the back of that thing, and it's ran hydraulic from here to there. But then I was like, man, you know how sweet it would be is if I didn't have hydraulics, didn't have to worry about heating issues, didn't have to worry about all that stuff, and it's a lot of expenses to get those kind of hydraulic pumps, and I'm having a problem with trying to fit a big old pump right between the frame of the tractor in there. Well, I had one of those moments, it's like, ding, light bulb. I was pretty jacked about it, by the way. And that light bulb wasn't like, it was like an LED light bulb. It was stellar. This is what I came up with. See that cover right there? You can stack a PTO on there. So if I stack a PTO right here, and then I have a drive line or drive shaft, and that goes to here with a pillow block to support, and then I make universal joint pivot point here so it can pivot on the tractor. And then this here is also from a Steiger tractor. This is a big old heavy carrier bearing. This will be mounted on the back on top of my chain case, and then a drive line going straight down to the back of my PTO gearbox. Now, that's easy. That's not a problem. That's not what I was struggling with. What I was struggling with is trying to figure out what is the gear ratio in this transmission from the engine to that PTO box to the back of there to go down, because that's gear reduction. And this here also can be gear reduction as well. You can change it higher or lower depending what you want to do on the PTO. So that was a big struggle for me to figure out, and we'll get to that. But here's one of the main things that I was struggling with. How do I go from here to there by a push of a button to turn it on and off? That is a struggle. Now there's many different options, and I finally came up with an option I think is gonna fit really well. I've been talking to a company, and they're gonna work with us, and they're gonna set us up with something that is gonna solve that problem. And we will get to that when it arrives, which will be a little bit, but it's gonna be stellar. So I'll have a way to harness that power when needed to the back. Now I drew this up, it's kind of crude, not very pretty. Here is the transmission. So right here is your engine drive shaft, or not drive shaft, crankshaft, okay? So this is the rotation of the crankshaft, and right now this is if I'm staring at the back of the transmission down. So I had to count how many teeth are in the main gear, right here, and then also here for my hydraulic pumps, but also up here to figure out how much of a gear ratio I'm going to have between those two. So if you look at, I've got 46 teeth, and the rotation spins this way on the back of the transmission facing this way. And the rotation spins this way, that's 38 teeth. And I figured at these two right here to the top, without the PTO, you're looking at about 0.82 ratio. And then with the PTO housing that I was kind of looking at, when it's said and done, after you mount that on here and it rotates, you're gonna be about yay so. Now this is the PTO housing on the back. Now after figuring out this is a compound gear and this is another gear and the right rotations way it goes, I gotta make sure that that PTO is spinning the correct direction, because if I don't figure that out, my PTO, after I set it all up and get it all done, could be spinning the opposite direction, a little nerve-wracking, back here, which I don't want. I need to have that spinning the correct rotation. So as you can tell, my brain has been going crazy and trying to figure all this out. Now here's what I figured out is at 2,000 RPM, I have about 2,080 RPM at the PTO on the top of the transmission. So if the engine's spinning 2,000 RPM, it's about 2,080 RPM at the top of that transmission when it's said and done. With the PTO gearbox in the back, you're looking about 1,780 PTO. I think that's the rate, yeah, RPM. So it's 1,780 RPM at the very back of this output shaft. Now, granted, we're not going to be running this engine that fast. That's not going to be the problem. We'll idle it down to about 1,000 RPM, and we'll figure out what RPMs we need to do to run a grain cart. So really, this here is going to be pretty awesome. The main problem I'm going to have with this setup here, and this is the main problem, it's not the angle of that drive shaft coming down to this gearbox. That is going to be okay. I've looked at the degrees and the universal joints will handle it. Not a problem with that. My main problem, I know I'm yakking a lot, but you guys have to understand where I'm coming from, and those that are smart out there, I would love to have your input and tell me what I'm doing wrong. But this transmission here is only capable of running 200 horsepower at those gears running this PTO. That's my max. That is my problem. So I only have 200 horsepower at the max before I start tearing stuff off in the transmission to this point right here. Now granted, it's gearing it down, so this is spinning slower down here, so technically between here and here, it's possible I could have 250 horsepower down to this point because of the gear ratio. Get it? Oh, there's a lot going on, So that's why I haven't been talking about the PTO on this tractor. But I am super excited and super jacked the fact that this tractor here that I know of will be the only tractor in existence with a mechanical PTO of a big blade tractor. Prove me if I'm wrong, because I would love to be wrong and I'd love to talk to somebody and see what they did. But this tractor here will be a one of a kind, and it is pieced together with a lot of parts and a little retrofitted, but it's coming together. And the planning I've had to do on this tractor and trying to figure out everything has just been, I've lost sleep. Oh, I've lost so much sleep, and I can't stop my mind from thinking. It's been pretty brutal for me, like just trying to get everything figured out. And so months ago on one of the videos, I said we had big plans and a big project coming up, and stay tuned. This is what we were talking about. So not only that, I've got to figure out all the components and everything on the engine to make sure it fits and works with the transmission, and make sure the transmission components work, all that, and the PTO, and then all the gear ratios, and then figuring out all the different types of mounts and all the different pieces and where it's going to go, where to put the heat exchanger for the transmission, and all the filters and all that kind of stuff, and how am I going to plug in the hydraulics, and what am I going to do for her hydraulics, and all that's coming up too. So as you can tell, there's a lot of planning into this tractor. All right, I told you it was going to be a lot of talking, but I hope you guys understand what we're doing here. I'm pretty excited about it. And the company I'm working with to figure out my clutch problem for the PTO, it's gonna be awesome. And I can guarantee it's gonna be awesome.
Well, went ahead and started draining the axles, the differentials, I should say the axles, the differentials, and overall, no surprises, no chunks came out, no filings, oil's dark, but looks good, so we'll put some new stuff in there when the time comes, but I'll just let those drain for a long time. Also, here's that chain that came out of the divider box. So thankfully I've got a friend in Eastern Montana who's got a couple of Series 2 buds, and he bought a new chain back in 2022. And Morse doesn't make them in the United States anymore. They're made in Birmingham, the UK, Cross Morse. And so anyways, doing a lot of research, pretty much everyone said, don't have it, don't have it, don't have it. Got a hold of them. They can make it 3 to 4 months out lead time. Bet you can't guess what this chain costs. It actually was a little better than I thought it was gonna be. Just under $5,000 US. So we're gonna order 2 of them because we've got 3 of these tractors that use that chain. And you just never know when the day comes and it's like, sorry, no one makes that chain anymore. Then you gotta try to figure out a whole new way to divert the power from above down to your axles. So 3 to 4 months, we'll get a new chain. If we don't get it in time for this build to be done and to drive it, we'll take a link out of that chain and put it back in and run it this spring if we can get it done in time. If for some reason the chain does show up in time, we'll throw it in here. But we're gonna just go ahead and wait on this until the very last minute, and then if we don't get the chain, we'll put the old one back in. But that's what's going on with that. So everything else looks good. The gears look good. I almost call it sprocket again. Bearings all feel good. So what I'm gonna start doing now, I'm gonna start taking all these universal joints off, the yoke, no seal there, not have to worry about that. So universal joint, or yoke off, and then I'm gonna change these seals out because those seals need replaced. I've got all the seals and the speedy sleeves. Let's get all that taken care of. Then I can be done with this until we're ready to tackle that when the bushing parts come in. Let's go. Oh man, I need cleaned up. Okay. Now, if you guys remember when Leg Arms was messing with the yoke there off the spindle, the splines were all absolutely destroyed. Yeah, it turns out they don't make those anymore, the yoke, and there's only a couple in existence left on inventory. We ordered a couple of them, so fortunately, we should get our hands on some to finish the front and the rear axle because we needed 2. But the reason why that went kaploots is, I think, this right here. Can you guys spot what's wrong here? Yes, it has gas in it, but you notice, see the center of this universal right here? Let's draw a straight line down and look where it comes up. It should be right there. Whoever took this yoke off at some point in time made the fatal mistake, big no-no, and didn't line this universal up with that universal. One spline off. It's a mistake you can make, but do not make it. Because what that does is it adds severe binding. When the tractor twists a little bit in the back, this back half of the tractor dips down, that universal, this is a slip yoke here, and it's got to slide in and out and move. Well, if those are off a tooth, it's gonna fight itself, and that's why it destroyed that yoke. Thankfully, it didn't destroy the splines on the axle. That's good. But that's why that failed. It shouldn't have failed like that, and that's why that failed. So, but we'll be okay. Let's keep taking this off. I was getting ready to beat on with the hammer, and they're already starting to come out just by shaking it. Okay, let's air chisel this cap off. Doesn't matter if I damage this piece, because that's getting replaced. That's what I thought. It always breaks the cap off. Go. Kablink. There we go. Look at this. That nut's loose. Hopefully the splines on this are fine. But all that chattering with that being out of alignment, it wreaks havoc on this whole system. That universal joint's out, but I'll find the nut. But yeah, I can almost turn that off by hand. I mean, that nut might be toast. We'll have to check the threads on that. All right, let's find out what the splines look like. Might need a new nut. Let's see here. Just feels loose. Yeah, those splines look a little wore down. Okay, that looks good. All right, I think we're good there. That unit's fine. That didn't come out very easy. I'm getting better at it. I'm getting better at it. This one's almost out without destroying the absolute pieces. There we go. Got it. Oh, that's better. That's more like it. Just forget that first seal. That's how you're supposed to get them out. Ain't messing this nut up, but I don't know how else to get it off.
Why do you need to take it off?
You can't get the seal out. The seal is behind it.
Oh.
I did this with the other bud too. You can pull the old seal up to it and it sticks above it. They press the seal into that and then they put the nut on. But I did count my revolutions. I made marks right here. I've done one whole turn. It started here, one turn, now I'm 1.5 turns. So I'll remember how many turns that I've got. But I don't know how else to turn it. I could almost get a pipe wrench on that.
Well, probably better put some heat on it, let it swell.
I don't want to do that bearing in there and everything. All that oil.
Oh, it's not turned too bad.
It's just not like getting easier. It's just so I'm hoping to get to the point where I don't have to use this air chisel and I can just get it, but I hate, I'll have to grind all these edges off and make it nice again. All right, there's 3 revolutions, perfect. 5 turns. Just press the new seal into the nut. Got a little bit of a gasket sealer around the inside in there, so that way oil can't leak around the seal. There's an O-ring that goes inside this divider box housing, and right in here. And that's supposed to stop oil from going around to the threads, but I don't know if I trust this old O-ring. It's probably shrunk over the years, and so I'll put some gasket sealer or pipe dope or something on these threads as well. And that way, hopefully it will be totally sealed. So this should be good to go back on. 5 rotations back to my key here that stops it from turning. So we should be good to go. I got it all cleaned up. Let's put it in. Okay, O-rings in. Gasket sealer on the threads. See if I can grab, there it goes. Oops. I think the threads, there's my markings right there. Yeah, right here's where it starts threading. Okay, so that's 1 rotation. Now I'm on 2 rotations. Now it's hard, of course. All right. Okay, that's 4 rotations. Technically, I need 1 more rotation, and then I can lock it with the key here. It is getting tight. I guess I keep going. One down, 3 to go. But at least I don't have to worry about a nut. The other ones I just got to press the seals in, so easy peasy. Seals are in. Now I just got to put some speedy sleeves, which I've got in a box over there, on the yolks, which are sitting in the solvent tank right now because I got a lot of really hard grease on them, so I'm gonna let it soak for an hour and then I'll clean them up. So that's good. We'll be all done with that thing. And then I'll help Leg Arms with the radiator. All right, here are our 3 yolks. I just got done cleaning all the grease off of them. Ancient grease that's been on there since dinosaurs, which might have originated from the dinosaurs. Anyways, you can see this is the top top yoke off the very top of the divider box, and it's got a little bit of a groove. This is the bottom on the front tractor half. Actually, no, I take that back. This is the back with that nut that I had to take off. That faces the back of the tractor. Look at that groove. Oh man. Yeah, I can pull up my fingernails. Look at that. That is bad. And this one's got all kinds of wear all around the whole thing. There's a big old groove right here. Oh man. So that's where these come into play. And these are Speedy sleeves. So these sleeves we'll put over, and it'll be a new surface for the seal to ride on. They're not very thick, but it'll give a lot more life to these yokes. But like Leg Arms does, I gotta fill these crevices in with some type of hardened material, like JB Weld or something, and then sand it all down and get it true. So that way there's no valley, no gap underneath there for this to ride on. Otherwise the new seal is just gonna squish this seal into the crack and start leaking again. So let's get some stuff on these and sand them down. Well, while that's hardening, we're working on the cowling for the fan. We've got a pipe roller or bender here that Dad bought, and we're gonna use it to try to do some flat iron. So we're gonna see if we can make a circle like that right there. So that's our guide. So let's give her a run and see what happens here. Garbage! It's going to be easy to open up wider. So the question is, can we go past that a little bit like that?
We can. Well, you can see the opening, or there's a mark somewhere on this thing that we made. The other side.
We'll just keep going all the way through.
Can I roll the whole thing? Hey, Nick. How come you didn't use this thing to just like roll those fenders?
What?
You should have just rolled the fenders with this thing.
Yeah, we should have. That would have made sense.
Some people just don't think. Down. I guess that's one way to do it. In the future, if I ever wanted to, I could probably make like some flat rollers on a lathe.
That's pretty close.
And then you could, yeah.
Cut off the starting point. Yeah, that'll work.
That'll work really well.
Okay, good luck.
Perfect, thank you.
Got the seam at the top.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna try to do. Since this is the center right here,
okay,
we'll overlap this just a little bit. We could do that, or we could just butt it up against it.
Well, your side needs to overlap because this is the flat part right here, so I'd go turn it your way a little bit. There you go.
Okay, so what we need to do is we need to start on that side and tack all the way around, and then we got to figure out the distance on the bottom and then tack on this side.
Yeah.
Come all the way up here, and then we'll cut whatever we don't want.
Okay.
Let's make sure that was fan is on there. We can tighten that up.
Centered. I just want to make sure it was true on there. Looks like it is. Ready?
Yep.
All right, I think the next step, we're gonna grab the hood. We're gonna put it over that radiator, make sure everything fits, all the clearances are good. And if it's all great, we like what we see, then we'll take it all off, take the radiator off, put it on the floor. We still got some work to do with cowling around the fan. And then probably start building the second round of engine mounts. Hold the backside of the engine on. Ooh, she's frosty out here. Nice and frosty, but it could be worse. It's actually just at freezing right now, which is not bad. I'd take this all winter if we could. Well, you know, the negative zero temps there. They're coming. Oh yeah, for sure. If I remember correctly, we left that pipe in there because we used that pipe to wrap the chain around it. Square tubing, not pipe, square tubing. We've had a couple people in the comments say, you should get a different cab on that tractor. You should change the hood on that tractor. we kind of like the original look. And the thing is, I know we're butchering this tractor as far as we're doing a lot to it that isn't stock, like whitening the fenders, rebuild the back end. That's just Big Bud. You just always are messing with them. But we would still like to try to keep this thing as authentic to Big Bud as we can. And that hood has got a unique look to it. And the Series 1, when it's all said and done, is just a really gorgeous tractor. So we're gonna keep that hood, and we're gonna keep the original cab. And the thing with that cab, you guys will see in future videos, is it's not as small as you think it is. It looks small, but the way it's set up in there, and by the time we get the seat in there and everything settled out, you're actually gonna have a lot of room, a lot of room. Like, it's gonna be a lot more room than a lot of tractors that you drive today. So we're thrilled. It's gonna be a sweet ride. It's gonna be the gangsta tractor. Ooh, snort stopper. Thanks, Jeff. You can take the stand off that thing. It's not gonna be in the right place anyways. It's kind of in the way. Currently sitting on the tractor. He's loose up here. No, we're clear. So that tube that I put in there to hold it is just resting on top of the radiator. But this isn't, it's loose, it's all loose. Yeah, I think we got a couple inches. I don't want to pull too hard, because if I pull back, it might take that bottom out, so. Okay, so we got it resting on the corners over here. The hood's just sitting on the top of the valve cover on the KTTA, and I got that hoist just holding it, just so we don't slip. But we don't want this to pop out like this, because if it does, then it's just it'll just fall in the radiator, I guess, which won't do anything. But yeah, this bottom, those original brackets are in the way to push us in any further, so we got to cut them off. What's it look like from the front?
I don't know if you're gonna go in much further.
Probably not a lot, no. So we probably need to pull the top out some. It's leaning in a little bit at the moment. She looks big.
Just to give you an idea, if we leave it roughly.
Oh, this tractor's gonna be so big. Just think.
This is the front of the tractor.
That there,
Oh,
almost 10 inches taller. I'm gonna get the Ellis Dubs on it. 10 inches. 10 inches. That's like, this is gonna be like right here. And that is gonna be.
I can't reach it, Nick.
Yeah, we're short people too. That went on real easy. What if I cool down? I don't know. That might have been too easy. Okay. All right. I hope it doesn't leak.